Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Work Tech. I'm George LaRocque, and we've got some industry deal news today. Plum announced a round of growth funding of $6 million. You may or may not know Plum. It's a talent assessment platform, and Caitlin MacGregor, Plum's co-founder and CEO, is here to talk about the deal and tell us all more about Plum. Welcome, Caitlin.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, I'm thrilled to have you here. I know a lot about Plum. We've been talking and working for a long time, but why don't we start with introductions? If you could tell everyone about yourself and about Plum, and then we'll go from there.
So my name is Caitlin MacGregor. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Plum, and we have created a leading talent assessment platform. We know that when people flourish, business thrives, and so we have created a universally designed psychometric assessment platform that is able to measure people's innate talents, like their ability to innovate, communicate, work well with others, and match them to job needs and enhancing talent decisions across the entire employee lifecycle. So, that means screening in talent that the competition is not looking at, and then using that data to onboard them, allow for employee development, match for internal mobility, and to be able to identify future leadership potential.
That's great. I love that. When individuals flourish, companies thrive. That's how you said it. That really resonates with me. And so, how do you align there? How do you align that talent potential with those growth opportunities that you talk about?
Yeah. When we look currently at the tech landscape in HR tech, a lot of the times, if you're looking at job boards or applicant tracking systems or human capital management systems, the way that people are matched to jobs is often some form of resume parsing and matching a bag of keywords to, of a resume to a bag of keywords from a job description, or people saying, hey, you volunteered in a hospital when you were in high school, you should go into nursing, or you are a teacher, you use project management. Well, guess what? This operations role also uses project management. And so a lot of how we match people to roles using existing technology is really looking at what somebody has done historically and just matching those patterns. What Plum does is actually look at the science behind predicting future performance. And industrial organizational psychology, especially in the last couple of decades, has been really clear at being able to show that performance comes from aligning what somebody is naturally talented in. So like I said, if they're incredibly innovative and the job requires an out-of-the-box thinker, you're going to actually get better performance from that individual, and they're going to be able to stay in that job longer because they're happy, fulfilled, and they're thriving. And so you can get double the amount of performance effectively doing more with less by aligning that person's innate talents with the behavioral needs of the job. We're also focused on eligibility, but performance really comes from that alignment of those innate talents, and that's what we measure.
Yeah, and so how do you, with your platform, given that you're working across the whole life cycle, I know you've got some unique approaches for the individual as well as for the organization. Tell us about those. How do you differentiate Plum?
Yeah, so there's a couple things that we've done very differently than legacy assessment companies, or, really that entire industry has really been about supporting consultants. And we've seen a lot of tech enablement, or if we see a full technology platform, sometimes there's a real miss on the science side of things. So there's a couple things that were really key to our principles. Before running this company, I was running an educational software company to help students with learning disabilities. So we really wanted to use a universal design to make sure that this was as inclusive as possible, to screen people in, to match them to opportunities that they may not yet have had the opportunity to do in the first place. So that starts with the individual getting value. A lot of technology is designed top down, and it's about enabling the employer, and all the value is to the employer. We really wanted to design something where people would get benefit from it, even if they don't get the job, or even if they don't get the position they were looking to move into. How do they get value? So the first thing is a very positive candidate and employee experience. So it's a one-time 25-minute untimed assessment that looks at the whole person, their cognitive ability, their social intelligence, their personality in a way that can't be faked or gamed. And they get a full report that gives them tons of insights in terms of what drives them and gets them out of bed in the morning, excited about the work they're going to do. And on the flip side, what drains them. And if they spend too much time in those draining activities, would eventually lead to burnout. And that's data that they take with them. So they don't have to retake the assessment when they apply to different jobs. They can share it on LinkedIn. They can share it with their manager or their peers or their, friends and people in their lives. So that's data that belongs to them and gives them value. Really, the secret sauce of Plum is the hard part, which is how do you understand what's job relevant? This is the thing that we kind of miss in technology, is that there's really strict compliance laws around. We're really only supposed to select people into jobs based on things that are job relevant. So you may have a really innovative culture, but do you want to hire an innovative accountant? Like, is that really job relevant? You may actually get in trouble there. So, really looking at what is job relevant. And as much as eligibility, like somebody in accounting role, you need to make sure that they know how to use Excel, and they may need to have certain certifications. If you line up 100 people with those certifications and that eligibility, that's not going to predict who's going to perform the best. Psychometric data assessing the behaviors that are needed for success are actually 4 times more accurate than a resume at predicting on the job success. So in just 8 minutes, we're able to automate the process for the employer to quantify the key behavior indicators. Like KPIs, key performance indicators, we quantify those KBIs, those key behavioral indicators that predict success in that role, at that organization, at that time, in just 8 minutes. And hiring managers, they love it because 93% of hiring managers would rehire their Plum recommended matches again. Scotiabank has a 90% rehire rate because we're getting the specificity of what that hiring manager and the internal job experts need to see in terms of performance, 6 months, 12 months on the job. We're predicting that upfront.
And when you think about the external hires and the internal hires, it becomes a real strategic data point to align. I love how you use eligibility as on the sort of like hard skills side of things. If we look at that eligibility and where maybe we go for someone a little more junior internally or externally, who's got that innovation quotient that is high, will they stay longer? Will they be more productive? And that's where you sort of cross between both talent segments, right? External and internal is
absolutely. That? I mean, we really see the market being plagued by a leaky bucket problem. There's not enough people, entering the top of the funnel to fill all the unfulfilled roles. There's 11 million unfilled roles in the US right now. But at the same time, we're losing people out of the bottom of the bucket. We're not able to retain the employees that we have. We're seeing 11 billion lost in annual turnover. And so to solve this, we need to increase the quality of hire and screen in people based on their potential, not just what they've done historically. Maybe we thought we needed 10 years of experience. Well, if I give you a 99 match and they have 5 years of experience, and somebody who's a 30 match and they have 10 years of experience, we need to change how we're stack ranking people. Yep. We need to start with the most predictive data, give everybody the same level of accuracy as a structured interview, but for everybody at the top with an assessment, and then look at eligibility, look at pay, look at geography, look at all those other things later. They still matter, but bring them in later after you're focusing on the people that are most likely to succeed. But at the same time, once you're increasing that quality of hire at the top, how do we retain our existing employees? And that is really empowering the individual to be the CEO of their own career. How do we give them a GPS to their LMS? How do we give them information so they can really lead their own career development and empower HR to have conversations that every time you have an open role, in an ideal world, we should be looking inside first. Once we know we don't have matches inside the organization, then we should be opening up things outside into talent acquisition. And this gives you one universal data set so you can know all your employees and you can know all your candidates. And you may have a role that shows up 3 months later. You want to be able to look at your entire database of employees and everybody that's ever applied and match them Again, not based on what they've done historically, but based on what they could do if given the opportunity first, just to get that first shortlist. And then you can run your traditional process of eligibility and all that, secondary. But 5 years ago, if we were trying to hire a developer, people would be trying to find needles in a haystack, Ruby on Rails developers. Now in 2023, nobody cares about Ruby on Rails developers. So that shelf life and even the needs of the jobs, they're changing so quickly. We need to be focusing on what really matters, the pieces that you can't teach, the pieces that are going to allow somebody to jump out of bed in the morning, excited about the work, finish the day feeling fulfilled. That's the stuff that's going to increase performance and make them stay. So Scotiabank's been able to double retention. Whirlpool's been able to increase their retention by 77%. This is really having a huge impact on the bottom line.
Yeah. So you've mentioned a couple of customers. What does an ideal customer look like? What are the attributes, beyond their, other than, size and maybe industries relevant, but what are those attributes?
So we work with a lot of global enterprise companies, and they're in all industries. We do a lot of banking, insurance, manufacturing, all over the board. But the things that they have in common is that they're often trying to deal with a global distributed workforce. So they need to have this universal data. Sitel is in 26 countries with 170,000 employees. How do you manage that employee development and internal mobility? You need a common language. And so Plum's 10 talents really give us that very accessible, easy to understand language like innovation and communication and teamwork to better understand how to maximize their existing talent. The other thing is that a lot of these companies have realized that what they were doing historically pre-pandemic is not going to work in the post-pandemic world. They understand that the geographic borders have disappeared. You don't have to move cities in order to apply for another job, which means that, individuals can just hop jobs until they find the best fit. It's not just about comp. It's not just about geography. It's really about how do they find a company that they want to stay with. And so the game's changed in terms of there's more this equilibrium where we need to put humans at the center. And that's why, for us, when people flourish, as an outcome of that, business thrives. And so we work with companies that understand that. Whirlpool, if they don't accept a candidate, they still want that candidate to go out and buy a Whirlpool appliance. They need to have that positive relationship. If there's an opportunity to repurpose them later into a new opportunity, they want to go back to that person that they've developed a relationship with and bring them forward. So I would say that there's a mindset of companies that are at the forefront of the future of work and trying to think about how to do things differently and understand the human behind the work.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. Now, we're here to talk about the deal. So I like to sort of always set the foundation with the business and understand, your customer profile and all that. But what was happening internally or externally in the market that made this the right time to raise funds?
Well, I would say that probably 18 months ago, even though we were working with incredible brands like Citibank and Scotiabank and newer ones like Manulife, we weren't necessarily known on the global stage. And in the last year, we have won almost 50 awards. Some of the biggest awards in our industry, like Top Product of the Year at HR Tech in September for our Leadership Potential module. We've really raised our profile, and we are constantly being told by our customers that we are the leading talent assessment platform. Our ability to do talent acquisition, talent management, one universal data set across the entire lifecycle, this has never been done in our industry, especially with our science beating out the legacy assessment providers, as well as providing this just incredible scale and user experience. And so this was the time to say, we've worked our butts off for the last decade to really, justify being a player in this space, getting people to notice us and notice that we were disrupting a very legacy space, but also getting the message across that this isn't about replacing, your assessment, line item in your budget. This is about solving one of the top 3 business problems that enterprises are, facing, which is this labor crisis. We are that missing data to solve it. Now that we've established that and we've had 100% year-over-year growth and we have these incredible expansions and renewals of these global brands, it was the right time to stop kind of just being a player and trying to justify our existence and being a humble, Canadian origin company, and instead go out there and say, we have a vision for the future that is very different than how companies are approaching it today. We have the missing data, the hard part of the equation, which is understanding really those innate behaviors of a human that you can't just infer and resume scrape. We've solved the most difficult part of the equation. We are now ready to go out and really truly own the space and be a winner in this space. And that means we need a new round of funding. But more importantly, we need to find a partner that sees the same future, like the impact that this can have. One of our earliest clients in our history was Andela, and they always said that, brilliance is evenly distributed, but opportunity is not. And we helped them screen people in Africa that had the potential to be software developers so they could then train them up and go work for large organizations like Microsoft and Google. We've always, from day one, had this landscape of this vision of matching every person to every role, where they're going to be optimized and create the best returns for companies, but also be happy, fulfilled, and thrive. That's been our goal day one. And that's a really ambitious view. Like, that's very different than how things are done today with job boards and ATSs and human capital management systems. So to find an investor that wasn't just looking at, trying to sell us in a few years, like so many HR tech companies that go through funding, but really wanted to change, because the impact of doing this right isn't just making people happier, isn't just allowing businesses to outcompete the competition and really value their people. But as we have an aging population, we have to, as a whole global society, do more with less. We are going to have machines in 20-ish years replacing jobs. Like, we have to reinvent so that our economies can really survive the next 10, 20 years. We have to do things differently. It's not a choice, it's a must-have. And we think we have a fundamental piece of that equation. So to find an investor that was excited to be part of this future vision and take a big bet and a long bet, that was really important for that. And so we found that with Pearson Ventures, and then we were able to get our existing investors, like EDC and Real Ventures, that also have seen our growth. Everything we said we were going to do, we've done, to come in. And so we are announcing a $6 million growth round of funding to allow us to go out there and just keep going after this really revolutionary vision.
Yeah, that's key, because as much as you're selecting, a source of funding or deal terms, you're really selecting a partner. This is you have existing investors, so that you've done this before. But Pearson being an education company, it seems like that could have, as a learning company, some real impact on your business. Is that, has any of that, do you have a view to that? I mean, you've talked about sort of the vision alignment, but any impact for Plum that you think
I think there's enormous opportunities. They spun up just under 2 years ago a new workforce skills division, really betting on the future of work. They've brought in some great companies like Credly and Fathom that are working towards the future of work. And so there's some awesome partnership opportunities, real collaboration. And it's just, I remember when we got to meet face to face for the first time at HR Tech in September, and we were finishing each other's sentences and talking about, wait a second, that's a slide in my pitch deck. That's a slide in my deck. Like, we literally were speaking the same language. And after talking to almost 100 investors going through this fundraising round, I can't tell you how rare it is to find people that genuinely are trying to create the same future. And they've got pieces of the puzzle that we're not doing, and we have pieces of the puzzle that they're not doing. But that collaboration, I think we're really excited. We have had lots of people, talk about partnerships in the past, but sometimes you wonder if you're really working towards the same outcome and the same benefit for the employer. And, at our core, we are really democratizing access to best-in-class industrial organizational psychology. There's real science behind what we do. So it's really important to work with a partner that wants to ensure that they're doing what is best from the science perspective and not just taking the shortcuts to fastest revenue. So, Pearson has because of their background, they have an appreciation of the science. They have these other partners that they've brought on to work towards the future work, and they've really made this big investment, that it's really this education through to the workforce skills, and that future work. And so we have just such alignment, and I think great opportunities to partner moving forward.
Great. And so how will you use the funds? What's the plan?
Mostly sales and marketing. Now that finally people know about us, the requests to be included in RFPs, we haven't lost an RFP yet. We just keep winning them over and over again, because once people see it, it just completely is differentiated from others in this space. And so really investing more in making sure that our message gets out there in front of people, and really increasing our sales capacity. So sales and marketing and partnerships is the biggest use of funds. And then we've got a couple of things on the tech side up our sleeve that really, again, taking a very different approach to how do you really understand the whole person? How do you understand not just those transferable soft skills, but some of those other pieces that are important to help with improving recommendations? So some of that stuff that we're working on, and as we experiment and make sure that it delivers to the level of the rest of our product, we'll make more public as we develop it. But mostly sales and marketing with a little bit more up our sleeve.
Okay. All right. So it sounds like you'll be able to accelerate some roadmap items, some vision. What would you say the impact would be for an existing customer, or if at all?
I mean, right now we really have like a white glove service, in that we have an incredible customer success team and professional services team that's just part of the platform. So we're always helping with playbooks and talking through how can we support them with their internal change management? How can we help them with their communication? So it's just allowing us to hire more into that team, so that we're able to continue that high level of service. We won a lot of awards this past year specifically because of how we help with that post sales, all of that onboarding, and being available to run analysis for them, almost being like an in-house industrial organizational psychologist for them and their needs. Again, all just part of the platform. This isn't a consulting service. This is just part of enabling the data analysis with the technology. So it's just being able to provide more support, and as we onboard new customers, continuing to deliver that tailored support.
Yeah, and you've talked about the go-to-market side, you've talked about the customer success side. So I always like to ask about impact for employees. They get overlooked in a lot of these conversations, and it sounds like a lot of growth, the team's growing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's exciting.
I was just able to share last week kind of our strategic vision, and that idea that like, we're not just here to be a player and to have people notice us and say, hey, we have the right to be here. Hey, we're a real company. Like, we have actually earned the right, after doing this for a decade and having, so many enterprise companies, especially at our early, small size of company. Like, this is amazing that we have this really, we are ahead of so much of the industry in terms of understanding how to take best-in-class IO psychology and best-in-class technology and really scale it. Like, we have become subject matter experts in this hybrid that hasn't existed before. We can just go out there and now own this space, and through that growth. And that's amazing for employees to see kind of all that hard work pay off, and to really be able to up our game as an organization and go toe-to-toe with much more well-funded companies, and really consistently provide value to our customers, because we're always putting them first. We're always thinking about how to, we have case studies on them, really showcasing their success. And we've got some new ones coming out this spring. Like, it's amazing to highlight them and to see their success, and to be able to be part of that growth journey with really changing individual lives by matching them into jobs where they're going to flourish. And so, yeah, our employees are really excited, and there's so much growth opportunity. And we try to drink our own champagne. We use our own product. Everything I'm talking about, we are our first customer, and people benefit from that. And it's really amazing when they have so much pride to be in an organization that puts them first, and really thinks about how to support them and grow them as well.
Yeah, well, the energy that you have about the future for Plum, and the excitement for your customers and your employees, that's contagious. So I'm excited to see where this takes Plum and takes the whole team. So congrats again on the deal, and thank you for coming onto WorkTech to help tell the story about Plum and about the deal. Thank you.
I deserve, you deserve all the thanks because you've been critical at really helping us. You've been fantastic at supporting us. So I really thank you for all of your belief and support in us and everything, through this process. So thank you for having me today and everything up till now. Really, really appreciate it.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. And thanks everybody for watching and listening. And we'll put links to Plum and everything in the show notes. So thanks all.
Thanks.